All right, welcome to another Sailing Doodles podcast. Thanks for tuning in here. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so catch you right up. So we're going to get right into this one. The topic of this one is sailing and cruising Italy. What was it like? Excuse the glasses, but I'm getting old and I have to wear readers now, so that sucks. I'm sure, like most of you guys that are in your late 40s or whatever now, it's like, um, you know, it's like overnight. You have to start wearing glasses. Kind of sucks. But anyway, so we just finished the video series from sailing in Italy, and it was a lot of fun. So I want to kind of go over uh, sailing around there, what it was like, the costs associated with it, and everything, and tell you if that's something you want to do. So we headed over to Italy, and we sailed out of Naples, which is kind of like the ankle of the boot. So Naples is the Bay of Napoli. It's kind of like the most iconic place to sail. In there, you have you have Procida, which is an island off there, then Ischia, and then about 20 miles, 15 miles south east of that, you have Capri, and then over there's like a little peninsula that sticks out. That's one of the more famous places with all the famous places in Italy. You have Positano, you have Amalfi. And then Sorrento and all these other places, Nerano, really iconic places to go, and so it really is a convenient place to cruise around there. We started we chartered out of the Marina di Stabia, which is about 30, 45 minutes from the airport. Airport of Naples is a little bit further north, I think. Yeah, it's out over here, I think, somewhere northeast. But but it's outside of town. We actually flew into we flew in. Oh, I did that. My bad. We flew into Rome about 3 weeks prior, and we rented a camper van. So that'll be coming out on Glamping Doodles. We rented a camper van, and we cruised around in the van for about 3 weeks. And then we took the train down from Rome to Naples and sailed out of there. So, my first. Oh, by the way, if you're watching this in video, I'm in a hotel room in Galveston because I'm down here for Flying Doodles. Going to be filming this week for Flying Doodles. I hopefully have a new host. It's not that Dakota wasn't good at her job. She just kind of stopped making videos, and I don't know. I think she wanted to move on and do something else with her flying career rather than make YouTube videos. So I found someone else down here. Her name's Emma, and she's a pretty accomplished tailwheel pilot. And she does we're gonna go flying later today in a biplane, so gonna film her with that, kind of teach her the ropes, and hopefully she'll start filming. I just don't have time to do it, so anyway, I flew down here to Galveston just for this 3 days to film with her and get her up to speed. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing here. But anyway, we get back to Italy and sailing in Italy. So that area is one of the most iconic areas to sail. The problem is that it's extremely expensive sailing down there. So the boats are not that expensive. We rented that Dufour 53 for how much did we pay for it? I think 5,300 euros, about $6,000. It was a 6 cabin boat, which was ridiculous. I don't think we needed a 6 cabin boat, but that's what it was. So we had I think there was what, 1, 2, 3, 4. There was like 6 of us on the boat, including some returning crew. You had Alina, Mike, and Michelle, and then we had Judith from season 2 when we were in Thailand when I went there. So she sailed with me for a couple weeks there. And so, it wasn't a bad. Well, you know what? I would never actually charter one of these again. Dufour 53. It was just loud and creaky, and it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't a great boat, but you get what you pay for, right? So it was only 5,300 euros. A similar sized catamaran, like a 53-foot cat, would have been like $12,000-$15,000. So, and I prefer getting monohulls out of the Med anyway. It's just easier to find dock space and all that. So that's why I prefer a monohull in the Med, and it's just kind of fun to sail a monohull. Like, everybody always says, they want to get a cat, and that's, I think, mostly because the ladies like the cats, right? They don't like to heel over. They want to be comfortable. and a cat doesn't heel. It's more comfortable. Guys tend to kind of like the whole like sailing stuff, like heeled over and getting at it, right? Although I was really surprised. Like the week after this Italy trip, we were in Croatia. So I'll give you some video about that soon. It'll be out. The next video is coming out. We were heeled over like 20-something degrees and doing 8.5 knots, and Amanda was loving it. And I was like, wow, you're not scared? Okay, cool. So that's a bonus there. But so, so the 6-cabin boat, 5,300 euros, or $6,000. So it's only about $1,000 a cabin. So if you wanted to really fill that boat, you could. The only issue is that it comes with such a small dinghy that, like, so you can see the dinghy on the screen there. It's just a tiny. Well, sorry, I'm trying. Anyway, you guys see behind Amanda there. That dinghy is only a 4-person dinghy, and it comes with a 2-horsepower motor. So if you're going to dinghy around anywhere, it kind of sucks because it's just you can't get anywhere in that dinghy. I mean, it's too small and too slow. But in the Med, you generally don't anchor out. So we got some comments about this on the videos. They're like, why are you going to a marina every time? You should be out enjoying the anchorages and all that. Well, especially in that area of Italy, there aren't any anchorages. So we were able to anchor out. Let's see here. I think nope, wrong video there. Let's go to. So we were anchor out the second day here in front Ischia, but that's a day anchorage only because it's in part of a national park. And so you could anchor until sunset, but then you couldn't anchor there. And then you could anchor further in, but I don't know if I'm going to get to a shot there. But like the entire anchorage there is full of permanent moorings on the place where you're allowed to be after night. And so there's no room to anchor. It kind of sucks that's the way it is, but that's just in the Med, that's what it is. If there's any place that's worth anchoring, it's already filled up with mooring buoys, and the water's very deep, so you can't anchor in a lot of places. So you end up having to Med moor at a marina, and unlike Greece, so when I was sailing in Greece, we were paying, so at the town docks, we were paying, anywhere, I was paying $20 to $30 a night with power. If I didn't want power, it was only like 10 euros a night on the town docks. So that was a really incredible deal. And then the food was very cheap and all that. So in Italy, there aren't as many town docks. They're all privately run marinas. So they did have privately run marinas in Italy and Greece as well. And those were more expensive. But most of the marinas were just town docks, and they were the cheap ones. In Italy, they're almost all private, and they're very expensive. So, like, the cheapest one we got was either Procida or Ischia, and I think it was here. Let's see here. Yeah, so this place here, and this was in Ischia. It's like 130, 150 euros a night. Which is not cheap, but it was better than many of the other places we went to. So like later on, it's like I think the next day we even went to Capri. Let's see here. Yeah. So the next day we went to Capri. We sailed down there, and I was hoping to be able to anchor out on the backside of Capri, but the problem is that the last time I was there, let's see if I can get some video of this here. So the last time I was there 6 years ago, on the south side of Capri, you could anchor out and still dinghy in and get in to go to the restaurants and stuff like that. But now, all that place where I anchored last time is all full of permanent moorings, and so you can't anchor there anymore. The only place you can anchor is really far out. And so you're in really deep water at that point. So you need like 300 feet of chain or more to be able to anchor out. And these charter boats just don't have that much chain, right? So we ended up catching a mooring on this little bay that it was for day use only, and we had to eat at the restaurant. So we went into the restaurant for lunch. We were going to use their beach club, which was really nice, but they wanted 115 euros a person to use their beach club. You did get $65 worth of, or 65 euros worth of drinks. So you're talking $140 a person to go to their beach club. And I'm like, yeah, we're not going to do that. So we ate lunch there, and then there was nowhere to anchor. And especially even if we did anchor, we were going to anchor really far out and then have to make at least 2 trips in that little tiny dinghy with the 2.3 horsepower motor. And so it just wasn't an option. So we ended up having to we sailed over to Narano, where we could get a mooring, although that night was really rough. The swell kind of wrapped around. There was all the wake from the boats, and that Dufour 53 creaked and creaked and creaked. Like I said, I think in the video I said I'm taking Dufours off my list, and that's why. It's just such a creaky boat, and I was not happy with it. None of us slept well that night. It kind of sounds like I'm talking bad on Italy right now, but I'm not. I mean, it was nice. It was expensive. Seeing some of these places was amazing. Like Capri is just an amazing place to see, but because it's such an amazing place to see, it's just full of tourists. It was kind of interesting. I don't know if it was this next video. Let's see here. Oh, that's the creaky one. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we did end up getting back into Capri. We found a marina there. It was 400 some odd euros a night. It was really expensive. So going to Capri was pretty amazing to see all that. It's an iconic place, but you pay for it. We did this because it was a charter, and you were only there for a week, and otherwise I wouldn't have spent that kind of money. I'm not going to pay 400 something euros a night for a marina. Unless, I've got other people on board to share the cost with or something like that, or it's an iconic place like Capri, and then I'm only going to do one night. Because, you stay for a week, that's, $3,000 in mooring fees, and you're like, wow, that's your whole cruising, kitty for the month, you know what I mean? Most people try to spend less than $3,000 a month when they're cruising. So it's expensive there, and I think that's my main takeaway from sailing around Italy is that, I really enjoyed it, and some of these sites were so amazing. I prefer the off the beaten path type places. I want to go to the smaller towns that maybe they don't have the iconic stuff. They're still going to be pretty. They're still going to be nice. There's not going to be as many people around, and you're not going to have to pay through the nose for these things. I'd rather go to the smaller towns out of the way. But the problem is when you're chartering out of Napoli or Naples, there are no small out of the way towns because that's such a popular area to cruise. So, it is what it is. Like, if I were actually cruising Italy in my own boat, yes, I would go through here. But no, I would probably not spend any more time in one place than I did on this trip just because it's too expensive. For the week, average 300 euros a night. So we spent $2,000 in mooring fees for the week. And that's just, like I said, you're just cruising. You're not going to spend that kind of money doing that. But it was kind of interesting. So Capri was very busy during the day. There was just so many people. But then in the evening, when all the ferry boats left, it was like a totally different place. There was so much less people. So Capri was nice, very expensive. I'm glad we went back the second day to actually walk through the town and some of the old streets and just how, it's just amazing. I don't think I got it on film, but the way they get stuff around, they have these little motorized, they're not like dollies, but they're kind of like dollies. They're like 4-wheel dollies that are really thin, and that's how they get all their stuff around. But I guess that's the only way you can do it because these streets are so narrow. But we had a great time there. And then from Capri there, we went over to, where did we go after that? I think we went to Sorrento. And Sorrento was a cool town. I really enjoyed going there. Really interesting place with all the, the cliffs and everything like that. It was just such a cool place to see. Let's see if I can find the drone footage on it. Yeah. We went a little too far there. There we go. So... And it's really interesting to see, even places like Ischia and Capri and all that, why people settled there back in the day. Because if you look at this giant wall on Sorrento, it'd be very difficult to attack by sea because, they put some cannons or something like that on top of these cliffs, and they're going to outrange you every time if you're coming in your ship. And then where are you going to land your ship? Yeah, they have like a man-made, breakwater that they built there, but back in the day it wasn't there. And then so you're trying to attack uphill on this stuff, so you can see why why people back in the day picked these places to live and why they're such ancient communities. And I always, whenever I'm cruising around, I always kind of look at those, like when I'm looking at Ischia or a castle, I'm thinking, how did they defend this? How did they do that? And I don't know. That's where my mind goes when I'm looking at these old buildings and stuff like that, or towns and castles. Is like, how did they defend them, and what would it must have been like to live there 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, where this place was. Which I think that's the main thing that I like cruising the Med about, is that there's so much history. Like, you cruise the Caribbean, I mean, yeah, there were people there in the 1500s. I mean, okay, if you want to talk indigenous people, there were there long before that. But the development, and unfortunately most of those people were murdered and killed by European settlers and coming over. But I won't get into all that. So those, in the Caribbean, there's maybe a few hundred years, 500 years of history, maybe not even that much in most places, and so they just don't have the same kind of like infrastructure set up and all of that, and there's not the history to see. They don't have the big castles and all of that have been there and churches that have been there for 1,000 years. And I mean, it is beautiful. You have these beautiful beaches you're not going to see anywhere else, and the water is amazing, but you don't have the history. And I kind of like the history part of cruising the Med, where you pull into this old town. It's got a town dock. You dock there. Especially some of these places, you're only getting there by water, and you go explore, and see the history and all that. So that's kind of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Caribbean, but what I'm looking forward to on the new boat is, I think we are going to do a lap through the Caribbean, and then maybe cross the South Pacific. So there's two types of sailing I like doing the best, is the Med type stuff, where you are seeing the history and you get these 1,000-year-old, 2,000-year-old towns you're checking out. Or I like going really far off the beaten path, like into some of the more remote islands in French Polynesia and Fiji and Tonga and Vanuatu, and going to these places where nobody goes to. The only people that are going there are people that are on their own boat cruising around. And because of a lot of these places, I mean, yeah, there are some places, like, for instance, Niue. Niue is this little town. Let me pull it up on the map here. I don't even know if I can find it is it N-U-I-E? N-U-I-E? Yeah, Niue. Here we go. Niue. So it is in the middle of the South Pacific, and it is 400 miles to the nearest island. So it's just this little circular island. It's 10 miles in diameter basically, and if you zoom out, it is in the middle of nowhere. See, over here is, well, I don't even know what these islands are. I don't even know if they're inhabited. What is this? That looks like Tonga, but it's not an inhabited area. But I mean, okay, there's a little community there. But I mean, even going to that community, it's so far from anything else that I think it's part of Tonga or Fiji. Niue, Tonga. Yeah, I think that's Tonga. Yeah, that is Tonga right there. So it's like 400 miles from Tonga. There is no other island within 400 miles. I think that's just a little atoll. But, so there's only 2 flights. It's got a little airport, but there's only 2 flights a week in there from New Zealand. That's the only flight in and out of this place. And so it's a little tiny town. That's it. This little tiny town is it. And so you go there and you get to see some of this cool stuff, like this dock that I'm zooming in on. That's the only dock to get on the place. So what you do is you dinghy up here. They have a little crane. They lift your boat up on the crane and park it on the dock there. And it's only, so there are a couple of boats anchored out here. They're on moorings out here. But you can only do that seasonally, because you need to be when the winds are out of the east. Because when the winds are out of the west, you can't you can't anchor or stay there. So it's just, those are the kind of places that you're only going to get to when you're cruising and sailing. Even some of these places in Tonga. I mean, look at these. I mean, this Tonga is such a tiny little place. You have, Nuku'alofa, right? That's the biggest town, and that's it. That's the biggest town in Tonga. It's not that big, and then you cruise up to the rest of these little tiny islands that are so cool. And I'm looking forward to getting back in the South Pacific just to do all that stuff. And then you head over to Fiji and all these little atolls and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And then, one of my favorite places we went to, I believe it's New Caledonia. Where is Vanuatu? Vanuatu. Just going to, there's 200,000 people that live in in Vanuatu, which is this little island chain. And I mean, look at it. It's all green. There's no cities. I mean, where do you see a city? I don't know. There's Luganville right there. This would be the biggest city. And so, it's just, you get into some of these places and seeing, because their life hasn't changed much. I remember when we were in Niue, they did not have any cellular data on their phones. And that was what? 2000, when did we cross? Would have been 2017, 2018 by the time we got to Niue. And so, I mean, they didn't really have internet. I mean, they had very slow, like you had to go to a cafe. That's right. They had like a little internet cafe you had to go to, and it was extremely slow. So, they didn't have cellular phone data. They had cellular, like you had a cell phone, you could make a phone call, but you couldn't like check your email on your phone or anything. They were just about to install 3G in 2018, which would have given them cell phone data. So some of these places haven't changed in such a long time. So that's what I really like cruising is this off the beaten path. So we're getting the new boat we're flying to Thailand. I already booked my tickets, so September 11th, we're flying to Thailand. We have Amanda's coming with me. We have a new crew member we're really excited about. But she's just coming for the trip. She's another YouTuber. We finally got like an influencer. She's a brand new YouTuber, but she's already got like 100,000 subscribers on her channel, and she's real pretty. I mean, gorgeous. Wow. So you guys will get to see that once I get to her. I'm waiting on her to send me some stuff, and I'm going to book her flight. But anyway, okay, so back to cruising Italy. So then we after we did. In this video, I'm introducing you. Oh man, is this? Go back to the very beginning. Okay. So. And then we went over to Sorrento. We did have a problem. Our main problem was booking marinas and all that. I was trying to do it days, or I mean, maybe I should have done it a week in advance, because I think all these people like book their marinas a week in advance. And so that's what I should have done is the week before booked all the marinas and all that. So we did end up having to hop around a little bit. Like we did things out of order. So we did Sorrento and then Amalfi, which is away from the marina. Then we had to go from Amalfi back to the marina, which was a long day. It was like 25, 30 miles. So one of the things that I'm not real thrilled on cruising the Med is that they only generally do your charter Saturday to Saturday. So you want to book a boat there, you're going to board on a Saturday, and you don't normally get on the boat till 4 in the afternoon, and then you need to have the boat back to the marina and fueled up by 5 p.m. on the following Friday. Because number one, they just have I don't get why they do that. I mean, I get why they do that. Sorry. I mean, they do it because if they do Saturday to Saturday, then there's no downtime on the boats. Like, so if in the Caribbean or most other places, you want to book Monday through Monday, great, no problem. But then the next booking on that boat may not be till Friday, right? So then the boat sits dead, not being used for 4 days. So what they want to do is they want to make sure that boat's used all the time. So they book Saturday to Saturday so that, you bring it back Friday before the Friday before, so Friday before Saturday, and then you're off the boat at 9 a.m. They clean it, they do any maintenance they need to do, and then you board the boat. The next group boards the boat at 4 p.m. that same day, and then they're gone. So there's no downtime. They're getting the most use out of the boat. Number one, because it's such a short sailing season in the Med. I mean, the Med sailing season's only 4 or 5 months long, really. So really, the water's cold in June. The water's not comfortable for me until July. So it was when we were there in the second week of July. It was getting good. The water was fine, but I've been there in June, and the water's colder than I would like to swim. So really, the sailing season starts in June. You can go in May if you want, but you're not getting in the water. It's too cold. So June, July, August, September's a great month to go because it's still warm. The water's still warm. It's not as hot as it was in August. A lot of the kids have gone back to school, so it's not as busy. So September is a great month to go, in my opinion. But you really only got like 4 months of really good sailing, June through September. And then I guess you got the shoulder months of May and October. You could fill those in if you want, but they're not great for sailing. So then they really try to make all their investment on while they can during those months. So whereas the Caribbean, you can sail all year round, but you do have to worry about hurricanes. You really don't want to book a charter in like August, September, or October. Those are the most common hurricane months in the Caribbean. But the rest of the 9 months, you can pretty much book without having to worry about it. You can book, say, in September, and it's a great time to sail. October is even better to sail the Caribbean, in my opinion. You just have to keep an eye on hurricanes, and you have to be aware that you might have to cancel your plans. So say you had a boat booked out of the British Virgin Islands in October. There's a 20% chance your plans are going to cancel because there might be a hurricane coming and they got to move the boats or you can't go there. So you have to keep that in mind. But for the rest of the world, you can book day to day and it's fine. I really don't like that they make you come back the Friday before. I mean, I get it. The reason they make you come back Friday before Saturday is because everybody has to get off the boat Saturday morning. So if you have every boat coming back at the same time, which they do, I mean, the fuel dock is a madhouse. I will say, we were at the fuel dock in Croatia coming back, and I've never seen a more efficiently run fuel dock. I mean, they were turning and burning. It was great. It was amazing how fast people were getting out of there. But, so if you have 50 boats all returning at 8 a.m. on Saturday, that it's going to take hours to fuel. And so then by the time people get off the boat, it's 10 or 11, and then they have less time to turn it. So they make you come back Friday, which, in the Caribbean, I mean, like, if you're going to do BVI, yeah, you got to be back at like 9 a.m. getting off the boat on Saturday. So if you book Saturday to Saturday, you got to be back that morning, not the night before. But you have to keep in mind, you have to get there early enough to fuel and get off the boat and all that. But that's up to you. So, I don't know. It's just, there's trade-offs for doing it either way. So that being said, my overall thoughts on Italy. I loved the history. It was so beautiful. The water was great. Would definitely do it again. But you definitely need to split the cost with somebody. So if you charter a boat with like 3 or 4 couples, it's doable, right? Because you're only paying €100 per couple per night at the mooring base or at the marina or something like that. And then, say you are getting a 5-cabin, 4-cabin boat if you got a smaller boat, if you got like a 45-foot 4-cabin boat, you're probably getting that boat for $4,000 for the week. So it's only $1,000 per couple, which, is pretty doable. And that's cheaper than a hotel, much cheaper than a hotel than you could get there. So that's what I would recommend for that. So it's really not too bad. Cruising through there on your own, maybe that's the time when you have friends come on board and join you for a week while you cruise, because they would love to do that anyway. You have friends join you in Napoli, and then you sail, do that for a week or two, so you're splitting the mooring fees and stuff with them, and that makes a little bit more sense financially. So that's what I would do there. I mean, like I said, the history is amazing. You're not going to see that anywhere else. Like just the ancient Roman stuff going on. I mean, I guess for my money though, the best place to cruise in the Med is Greece. There's so many islands. It's much cheaper. And there's just more options there. The downside with Greece is that a lot of the more famous islands like Santorini and Mykonos and places like that are down in the Cyclades island group, which is actually not a very good place to sail, especially, well, just not in general. The winds, it's much further between islands, so it's like 20 plus miles between islands. And so that makes, for some longer sailing days. And then the weather is an issue there. So they have the winds called the Maltemi, and they can be kind of unforecast or sporadic, and you never know when they're going to come in, and it'll blow 40 knots for like 5 days. And so if you've only there for a week and you wanted to go down to Mykonos and all that, well, okay, good luck. You're in 40 knot winds. Or say you're down in Mykonos and you got to bring the boat up to Athens. Well, now you got to beat 40 knot winds all the way to get up there. That's going to be a rough ride, and you got to get the boat back, or because somebody else has it chartered. So that's the downside of that. But I will say in Greece, there's plenty of other places. You can do the Ionic Islands, which up on northwest Greece, up by Lefkada. You can charter out of there. That would be where I would choose to go first, is Lefkada, and then cruise the Ionic Islands. And then you have Saronic Islands, so just west of Athens. Pretty great place, easy to get around. And those are the two places I would go. Now, if you have 2 weeks or more and you can charter, then yeah, I would go out of Athens and go down to the Cyclades Islands. Or if you're just cruising on your boat, yeah, sure, cruise through the Cyclades. I did in my boat, and it was great. Just keep in mind, you have to keep an eye on the weather, and you may end up being stuck somewhere for a week while you're waiting on the Maltemi to go through. But it's marinas are really cheap, and the food's great. I will say the downside of Greece is the food is great, but it's the same menu everywhere you go, and so you better love Greek food, because that's all you're getting while you're there. All right, so that is my thoughts on sailing Italy and the Med in general. So I just posted the last Italy video today, probably when this podcast comes out. And so from there, we actually flew to Croatia, and we had 7 boats in a flotilla. So with Navigar Yachting, we had our boat and then 6 other boats. One of the boats just kind of split off from the very beginning and did their own thing. They were going to join up with us at some point, but never did. So there was only 7 boats cruising around. We had a great time, and we'll show you those videos coming forward. Like I said, we're flying to Thailand in about, what is today? August 18th is when I'm recording this. We're flying to Thailand September 11th. We get there on the 12th. And we're going to go cruise around on the new boat. So I'm really looking forward to that. But thank you guys for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed to this channel. So this is the Sailing Doodles podcast. There's probably 100 or so episodes on here. I haven't posted lately, but I plan to get back into it, doing more of these kind of videos, and help support the channel. If you really want to help out, you can become a patron, patreon.com/sailingdoodles. And so thank you guys so much, and I will catch you on the next podcast.